I'm Christine, and today I want to go through a little tour of your clinical reformer and tower. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up. Starting with the Footbar, this is our infinity Footbar, and the reason, or part of the reason why it's called that, you'll see the track that it sits in goes all the way up and down the frame of the reformer. So there's infinite settings. Well, not exactly, but you get the idea. To adjust the vertical setting of the Footbar, you have your plunge bars that you press in to then release into a locked position. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the Footbar. So as I pull the plunger and then release it, could be in a different setting all the way down to flat or no bar. Now, in order to move your infinity Footbar up and down the track, so these plunger knobs, you want to pull them out, rotate so that it stays unlocked, and make sure you do both sides. Then it will slide up the track. You would release that plunger knob into one of the holes there to lock it into place. And you would do both sides to make sure the full Footbar is locked. And then again, to adjust it, open it, slide it back down the track. Rotate the plunger knob. Make sure they're in the same. And there's your infinity Footbar. Now, one thing that we can use this for that's not necessarily the Footbar, but it is to brace the jump board. So while I'm at this end of the reformer, let's take a look at our foot plate or jump board. Now, one thing to be aware of is as you go to set this into place, you want to make sure that there's two setups that are kind of preset before you put the jump board in. So we want to be at number 4 of this horizontal setting. So we have the 4th hole here. Now I think right now it's on the 3rd. So let's move it up 1. And then the Footbar at the vertical adjustment needs to be at the number 2 hole, which it is in right now. Now, looking straight down, I'm taking a look at the bracket here, and the bracket is what will hold the Footbar in place with that wood piece that slides right in. Now, I want to make sure that it's loose enough to take that piece of wood in, which it is. Now I bring this around. The upholstered side goes towards the carriage upholstery. Slide that into the bracket. Bring this jump board up against the Footbar. And then I tighten these knobs. When we tighten those knobs, it gets that bracket nice and snug around that base of the jump board. And then it is ready for impact. There's your jump board setup. So as I loosen the knobs, I can take that back out. Set this off to the side. Now, one other thing we can do at this end of the reformer is we have the standing platform right here, which has that grip feature on top. One thing we can add to the clinical is the extended platform or the standing platform extension. Bring that over here. We're actually going to use the same bracket that we used for the jump board. So I'll take the padding off. Here's your extended standing platform. Now you want to make sure you tighten those knobs again so that bracket holds onto this platform in place. Tighten, nice and secure. And then we have the pad, if you want it, right? This has the grip side to it, the grip adhesive piece over the top, or you can add the perfect cutout padding to add a little more cushion. Now this covers the spring bar. So if you want to make adjustments to the spring bar, you can lift this up with a hinge feature. How nice. And you can adjust your springs there and then close it back down. So that is your extended standing platform. Now I'm going to loosen those knobs again so the bracket has a little wiggle room. Take our standing platform back over here, or our extended standing platform. Now, around that bracket that we were just talking about for the jump board, for the extended standing platform, there's 2 eye bolts. And those eye bolts are what we secure the foot strap onto. So you have your padded foot strap, that's for your short box work. And then when it's not in use, it just hangs down more towards the floor. Getting to our springs. So the 5 standard springs, we have the yellow, the blue, red, and green. Now with the clinical reformer, you get 6 springs included. You get 3 red, 1 yellow, 1 blue, and 1 green spring. There's only 5 hooks, so I have 5 of those springs hooked on. I could interchange any of them out at any time. Now, in addition to the spring bar, we have the preloaded buttons on top. So if you wanted to have a preloaded spring, you could then pull the spring to the preloaded button on the top of the spring bar. And then moving on to the adjustment of the spring bar. The Revo spring bar allows us in one fell swoop to move that carriage and that spring tension to a different setting. So for instance, if I know that I'm working with someone a bit taller, I'm going to lift that spring bar, the handles on it. I bring the whole carriage component out and then I lock it into place. So now there's a greater distance from the carriage to the end of the reformer or the foot bar or whatever I'm using at this end of the reformer. Okay. Again, I lift it. I make sure that Revo spring bar hooks into the carriage. I pull that down to whatever setting I want to lock it into, and then I lower it down to lock it into place. So that is your Revo spring bar. Now, moving our way up, we have our carriage. You have 30 different options for upholstery. This is our standard black. Padded, we have the shoulder rests, also padded, and the headrest, all upholstered. And then getting into the shoulder rests, I'm going to take these down. I want to show you one thing that's unique about them. So these knobs, you untwist to loosen, slide these out, and you will notice that these bolts are off center from that base of the shoulder rest. What this allows is for a difference of width for shoulders. So say you're working with someone that has a wider shoulder span, you may want to switch these into an asymmetrical position. So that's a uniqueness about the shoulder rests. The 3 positions for the headrest. You have flat, you have setting 1 and setting 2. The ropes, you'll notice, are through the cleats, through the 2 metal brackets here, and then the spare rope or the extra rope goes down through the pre-drilled hole in the carriage. Now we get to the straps. They're going through the pulleys of the risers. You'll notice here with your clinical reformer, you have metal risers. Because of the tower, you have the metal risers with the locking pin. Okay, it has a spring, so this adjusts all different directions. And then with the double padded loops, you also get a set of neoprene handles. They could go with the reformer straps, they could go up with the tower springs. You have the option to use them wherever you need. In addition to those, you have cuffs. They could also be used on the reformer. They could be used on the springs of the tower. You have ankle cuffs and thigh cuffs, so 2 different sizes. And then you have a belly strap. I'll get to that a little later with the tower. So working our way up to the tower. Now you'll see we have eye bolts going all the way up and down the tower on either side. Now the back side typically for storage, except when you're doing some standing work off of the back of the tower. So they could be used for any version of exercise or storage for the springs. You'll notice the upside down eye bolts here, typically for using the roll down bar, the maple roll down bar. And then you'll see your push through bar here, the plunge adjusters here. So you'll pull both of these out to adjust vertically the push through bar. Now there's 3 different settings. You'll see 1, 2, this is on the 3rd or the lowest hole, depending on the exercise that you're trying to do. Now, you also have 2 eye bolts that are behind the risers here on the outside frame of the reformer. We'll talk about those when I bring the mat conversion in. You also have your safety strap with the clip, Velcro at the top to help secure that push-through bar, okay? The springs for the tower, 2 short blue, 2 short yellow springs, 2 long yellow springs, you can see here, padded loops, and 2 long purple springs, okay? So now, if I wanted to transform this piece of equipment into a tower and mat conversion, what I would start with first, you clean off whatever you have on the carriage, if anything. I'm going to just set these off to the side. I take the straps, drop them to the floor. Now, sometimes you might assume that you have to take these risers all the way out, which you could do. But the intention is to make this as seamless as possible. So you take the locking pin out of the riser, you lower that riser down all the way. You don't put the locking pin back in. You drop that riser all the way down. And then we have to get the shoulder rests out of the way, so I'm going to loosen, slide those out, easy. You could set them off to the side or on the ground. Then next, all springs need to come off of the spring bar. Slide this down about 3/4 of the way, okay? Now getting over to our mat conversion. Notice you have 2 different conversions here. This one here has 2 flaps. These flaps need to go over those risers and over those eye bolts I mentioned on the outside of the frame at the top. So take this, going to set this down. And as I take that upholstery, I just make sure that it flaps over the end. Now I take a look, and usually you got to wiggle the carriage a little bit so that the mat conversion fits perfectly in place. I always check the top, make sure that's in place. Now looking at this second piece of the mat conversion, notice these feet here are not perfectly in the corner. This is so this will slide over that end of the reformer with the standing platform. So I pick it up, going to make sure that slides easily there. I set it down, little wiggle, and then it is in place. So now you have your solid mat conversion, you have your tower with your springs. I didn't even mention yet, but the sitting box can be used for any number of exercises in the reformer and tower repertoire. So one thing I promised was I was going to talk about the belly strap a little bit more. Now with the clinical reformer, the trapeze table, you have the belly strap going around the entire platform. So typically used at either end, but it can be used the length of the platform. You want to have that in place so it's an anchoring system for any exercises needing a bit more anchoring for the lower body, typically for the lower body, sometimes for other parts of the body. But that's usually the use for the belly strap. So it would go around the entire platform and frame of the reformer and mat conversion, okay? And I think that just about does it for your tour and your intro to the clinical reformer and tower.